Stand for the restoration of democracy in Myanmar. We have urged the release of political prisoners and supported any attempts at resolving the current situation, including through the efforts of ASEAN.
And regional concerns are increasing as 10 ethnic armed groups on Myanmar's borders threw their support behind the anti-coup movement on Saturday. That sparked fears of wider armed conflicts and the possibility of a full-blown civil war. In Thailand, Myanmar's representative at a global beauty pageant broke down on stage when she proclaimed her support for the protesters.
They are working on the street for the democracy.
Now she's unable to return home, but determined in her support.
Myanmar citizens will never give up for that situation because they told me that they will fight on the street, and I'm also fighting my way on the stage now. So I think that if they will not give up, we will win.
And the funerals continue too. This woman was shot in the head as she traveled home from her job in a South Korean bank. Bus stops around the country have been turned into improvised memorials for those who have died, with messages of resistance now that wireless internet services have been cut off. But even these simple shrines are being torn down as the security services try to eradicate all signs of resistance. Tony Cheng, Al Jazeera.
Well, now 5 Indian security forces have died in a clash with Maoist rebels. The skirmish broke out in the Bijapur region in the central Chhattisgarh state. It comes days after 5 police officers were killed in a Maoist attack on a bus. Well, right now, people are demonstrating in several UK cities against a bill that would give police more powers to break up protests. That bill was drafted after the so-called Extinction Rebellion environment protests back in 2019. It would let police set time and noise limits on rallies, even individual demonstrations. Activists say it's designed to suppress dissent. Existing laws are under new scrutiny after police arrested several people at a recent vigil for a murdered woman. Well, our correspondent Paul Brennan is at that rally in London.
The instigation for all of this was the Extinction Rebellion protests of 2019, which brought central London to an absolute standstill, and the frustration of the authorities and the police that they didn't have laws to move them on, to open up these roads and these thoroughfares to keep London moving. They had to protect the people, but at the same time, the people campaigning now say that it's gone too far the other way, and it's an assault on freedom of speech, on their human rights, particularly at a time when there is already restrictions on movement because of the coronavirus the pandemic. Of course, Boris Johnson and his ruling Conservative Party have a pretty healthy majority in Parliament, in the lower house. So unless he faces some kind of big rebellion from within his own members of Parliament, then it's unlikely that any meaningful amendments will be forced upon it. But I have to say that the Labour Party, and the Liberal Democrats and the opposition parties are not happy about it at all, and they will undoubtedly try to force amendments on this bill as it progresses through. There's still a long way to go and a lot of debate, but the government seems very minded to put it through in its current form, because they can criticise opposition parties that come out against it. It's such a mammoth bill, you see. There are measures in it, for example, to extend prison sentences for serious crimes. That's a measure that most people in this country would agree with. Other measures include reducing sentences for less serious crimes. Again, that's a measure that most people in this country would agree with. But tacking into that bill, that mammoth bill, things that would restrict protest is not something that many people would agree with. And it's the fact that it's all under one umbrella that many people are not happy about.
Well, still ahead here.